Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And welcome to the Reaver of Common Sense, where we make sense out of the senseless. Only on shrmedia.com. Conservative media done right. This is the show where the spin dies screaming and the facts light the fuse. We do not tiptoe around the truth here, and we are not going to pretend that what we are seeing is organic outrage or isolated incidents. What we are watching is coordinated pressure being applied across churches, streets, media, and courts, all aimed at silencing opposition and avoiding accountability. I'm your host, Jersey Joe, and tonight we're walking straight into how that machinery actually operates. Churches disrupted when activists can't control the message. Journalists targeted when cameras get too close to the truth. Chaos exported city to city to make law enforcement impossible. Media confrontation masquerading as journalism. And justice applied selectively depending on who you are. This is not random. It is deliberate. It is organized. And tonight we're going to lay out exactly how it works, piece by piece. But before we go any further, hit that like button, smash subscribe, and share the stream like your freedom depends on it, because it just might. Every click helps us punch through big tech censorship, drown out the media noise, and make sure common sense has a fighting chance. Also, for those watching any of our videos on tablet or mobile device, don't forget to hit the hype button. It's very important. I'd appreciate it. And this is the Reaver of Common Sense, where the truth lives and the nonsense dies screaming. So let's get straight to the point. This is not rumor. This is not opposition research and not partisan noise. This is a court filing that raises a basic legal question about whether Eric Swalwell actually qualifies to run for governor of California under the state's constitution. The issue is residency. California law requires a candidate for governor to have been resident of the state for 5 consecutive years prior to the election. That requirement is not symbolic. It is not flexible. It exists for a reason, to ensure that that person seeking to run the state actually lives there and has a real ongoing connection to the people they want to govern. According to the filing, Eric Swalwell does not appear to maintain a legitimate residency in California. The allegation is that he does not own a home in the state, does not lease a home in the state, and does not have a verifiable dwelling tied to him. The address listed on his official campaign paperwork is alleged to be a law office rather than an actual residence. That is not a minor detail. That is the eligibility question. And from what I've seen on the internet, is his residency that he put down is actually his lawyer. The lawyer's office. That right there, and it doesn't surprise me. It really doesn't. But if these allegations were made against a Republican, oh man, imagine where that would go. This would already be a national story. We would be hearing nonstop about deception, disqualification, legal consequences. Instead, the response has largely been dismissal or silence. That difference is not accidental. It is a pattern. Residency is not about party affiliations, branding, or vibe. It's not about holding a driver's license or claiming political loyalty to a state. Residency is about where you actually live. It is where your household exists, where your life is anchored, and where you return when the cameras are gone. Spending most of your time in Washington, D.C. while maintaining no clearly identifiable home in the state you want to govern raises legitimate questions that deserve answers. This is where Democrats consistently undercut their own credibility. They demand strict enforcement of the rules when those rules can be used against their opponents, then treat those same requirements as optional when applied to themselves. Voters see the double standards clearly, even when the media refuses to confront it. Swalwell has built much of his public image around accountability and norms. That makes me want to laugh even thinking that. And around norms. He has argued that process matters and that standards must be enforced. That makes this situation unavoidable. Either those standards apply to everyone or they mean nothing at all. This court filing does not ask anyone to evaluate Swalwell's politics. It asks the state to apply its constitution as written. Either the residency requirement exists and applies or it does not. There is no exemption for incumbents, no carve out for party loyalty, and no close enough standard. Zooming out, this episode explains why trust in political institutions continues to collapse. Democratic officials operate in an environment where scrutiny is framed as persecution and enforcement is treated as hostility. That works until someone forces the issue into the open through the legal system. Sorry about that. This filing did not come from a rival campaign or party leadership. It came from a citizen invoking the law and asking the state to apply it evenly. That is not extremism. That is the system functioning the way it's supposed to. If Swalwell meets the residence requirements, resolving this issue would be simple. Produce documentation showing an actual resident, a lease, a home, proof of living in the state as required. Instead, what we are seeing is dismissal and deflection, which only deepens skepticism. Here is a larger issue. If residency requirements can be brushed aside for one candidate, they can be brushed aside for all candidates. At that point, qualification stops being standard and becomes a suggestion. That erosion does not stay contained, it spreads. California voters deserve to know whether the people asking for their vote actually live among them and are subject to the same rules everyone else follows. That expectation is not radical. It is the bare minimum. This is not about personal dislike or partisan rivalry. It is about whether the political class believes it is exempt from the law it enforces on everyone else. The courts will decide the legal outcome, but the public can already see the mindset on display. When politicians treat basic eligibility requirements as inconvenience rather than obligations, the problem is not the challenge. The problem is the culture that made the challenge necessary in the first place. I have no idea what that's about. And what I'm meaning is someone in chat. I love how people come in and instead of arguing the facts, instead of arguing the subject, they gotta try to make little snide comments like they're some smartass, when really they look like dumbasses. When you come in saying, look like I'm using an old 3G phone, well, maybe that's your system, not mine. But instead of arguing the facts, they can't argue it. So they try attacking. And here's the thing. You make me laugh when you do it. You show that you have nothing. I just, if you want to argue the facts, please. Where are we? All right. At St. Paul pastor had to do what too many leaders are being forced to do in this moment. Draw a line that never should have been necessary in the first place. This is church. This is worship. This is a space deliberately set apart from politics, protest, and power plays. Let me show you what I'm talking about. There's several videos we'll be going through. Bear with me.
When you violate people's due process, when you pull people off the street, you start dragging them and hurting them and not abiding by the Constitution, when you start doing all of that, people get upset and angry. And if you remember what the Civil Rights Movement was about, the Civil Rights Movement was about these very kinds of protests. There's nothing in the Constitution that tells you what time you can protest. You can protest at any time. That's the whole point of it, is to disrupt. To make uncomfortable. And that's what they're doing. And that's what I believe when I say everyone has to be willing to sacrifice something. You have to make people uncomfortable in these times. If you see how uncomfortable people uncomfortably, this is a beginning.
I don't understand. What did he think he was going to succeed in doing by going in a church and basically attacking the church members? Not physically, but verbally. What did he think was going to happen? Again, this church, this worship, this space deliberately set apart from politics, protest, and power plays. And yet activists chose it anyway. That choice matters. Because when you walk in a church service to disrupt it, you are not there to persuade. You are not there to debate. You are not there to appeal to conscience or reason. You are there to dominate the space. You are there to send a message that no place is off limits and no institution is allowed to exist outside ideological control. This is not accidental behavior. It is strategic. Churches represent something the modern activist left fundamentally struggles with: moral authorities that does not originate, but that's all, folks, getting a little tongue-tied here, from the state, the media, or the political class. A congregation's answers to something higher than trending narratives or approved slogans. And that independence is intolerable to the movement that requires total cultural compliance. So the tactic becomes disruption. Here. And the sad thing is, Don Lime, before he went in there, told everybody what he was doing. He was out there to terrorize and make them feel uncomfortable.
What do you think of this?
I mean, this is unacceptable. It's shameful. It's shameful to interrupt a public gathering of Christians in worship.
But there were folks who will say,
I have to take care of my flock.
okay, but listen, we live there's a constitution in the First Amendment to freedom of speech and freedom to assemble and protest.
Yeah. We're here to worship. We're here to worship Jesus, because that's the hope of these cities. That's the hope of the world, is Jesus Christ.
I want to be very respectful. Please don't push me, though.
We're here to worship Jesus. Yes. That's why we're here. Yes. Okay, that's why we're here.
Please don't push me. Well, stop getting in my face. Stop getting into my space.
That's what we're about.
Don't you think Jesus would be understanding
we're about
and love these folks?
We're about spreading the love of Jesus.
But did you try to talk to them as a Christian?
No one is willing to talk.
Okay.
I have to take care of my church and my family, so I asked that you actually would also leave this building.
You don't want us to chronicle what happened?
Unless you're here to worship.
I'm always worship. I'm a Christian.
We're here to worship. Yeah. We're here to worship. Okay.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
He's here to worship. It's what does everybody see there? A kid in fear. You interrupt the service, you interject confrontation into a setting built on reverence. You force a reaction from people who came to worship, not fight. And once you provoke the reaction, you flip the script. Suddenly, the agitators become the victims. The congregation becomes the aggressor. The pastor, drawing on a boundary, becomes the villain. We have seen this pattern before. It happens on college campuses when your speakers are shouted down. It happens at school board meetings when parents are treated like threats. It happens in public hearings when dissenting voices are drowned out. And now it's happening in churches. The goal is not conversation. The goal is control. By saying we are here to worship Jesus, he was not making a political statement. He was asserting a boundary. He was reminding everyone present that not every space belongs to activists, and not every moment is available for ideological exploration. There was no call for retaliation. There was no incitement. There was simply clarity. This was our purpose. This is why we are here, and you do not get to hijack it. That clarity exactly what the disruption was designed to destroy. Because activists rely on emotional escalation. They rely on chaos. They rely on someone losing their temper so they can point to it later and say, see, this is who they are. When that does not happen, the tactic fails. And here's the part the media almost never explores. If activists generally believed in their cause, if their cause would actually win hearts and minds, they would stand outside the church. They would hold signs. They would make arguments. They would invite discussion. They do not do that. They storm the service instead, because intimidation works faster than persuasion. And we're just getting started, folks. This is the anatomy of modern political warfare. And we're only peeling back the first layer. So don't go away. We'll be right back.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Are you looking for a way to boldly express your faith and love for your country? Then check out Seven Armors, the premier apparel company for patriotic men of God, where faith meets freedom in style. Our t-shirts are more than just clothing, they're statements. Bold, stylish, and meaningful. From timeless messages to modern designs, we've got something for every patriotic man of God. Wear your beliefs proudly with Seven Armors gear. Don't miss the chance to wear your faith and freedom on your sleeve. Visit 7armors.com today and join the movement. That's the number 7armors.com.
Come listen to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon Radio Show. Live on select and exclusive Tuesday and Thursday nights at 11 p.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. Central, and 8 p.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Rumble channel, SHR Media YouTube channel, X, Twitch, Spreaker, and wherever great conservative podcasts are found. BZ, your conservative Sherpa, guides you through the maelstrom of Democrat, leftist, and globalist lies, chaos, deceit, and betrayal. Raised as a free-range child with dirt, stains, mud, and freedom, BZ broadcasts from North Idaho, comfortably surrounded by actual normal people. Jump into our plush, sumptuous, palatial, and resplendent chat room on rumble.com. Click on live chat to join. Now, with 37% more umbrage and 19% more bulbosity than previous shows, featuring delicious Liberty additives for the best in late-night conservatarian talk radio. BZ reminds you that with great beard comes great responsibility. No chinchillas were harmed, embarrassed, fat-shamed, or the focus of any sarcasm whatsoever in the making of this ad.
Done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And this is the Reaver of Common Sense, where the truth lives and the nonsense dies screaming. Hit that like button to smash subscribe and share this stream like your friend. Freedom depends on it, because it just might. Every click helps us punch through big tech censorship, drown out the media noise, and make sure common sense has a fighting chance. I don't know what the hell they were thinking when they did this. I'm trying to figure out where I was in my notes. Oh, I hate when I do something stupid like that. Somewhere around here. So they said basically intimidation works faster than persuasion. This is not about immigration policy anymore. This is about civil society is allowed to function without constant political interference. If a church cannot hold a service without disruption, there is no institution that will be safe. And once no institution is safe, power shifts entirely to those willing to be the loudest and the most aggressive and the least restrained. That is not activism. That is coercion. Audience question. They're questioning a lot right now that are watching this go on. And I want to ask yourself honestly, when you see tactics like this, does it make you more sympathetic to their cause, or does it make you dig in and reject it entirely? Because for most of Americans, the answer is obvious. And the more this happens, the clearer it becomes that this was never about compassion. It was always about control. Do you think this helps their cause or exposes it? Don Jackass thinks journalism means turning disruption into performance. And in St. Paul, Minnesota, that belief collided with reality in the most awkward way possible. As we talked about, anti-ICE protesters stormed a church service, chanting and halting worship. Someone tried to point out that storming a house of God is a losing strategy. And instead of leaving it there, Don Lemon followed an elderly worshiper out into the snow and kept pressuring him as if badgering someone on a frozen ground proves a point. I'm sure I got here it is. One.
These people have come into our house and they've interrupted our worship. This is a house of peace, and we try to proclaim that. And this stirs division and rancor. And in the end, it's not helpful. Ultimately, I believe they've lost. They've emptied a house of worship. Everybody's gone home. Their point has been proven worthless. And so, in the end, I think they lose. But more importantly, if I was to break into any of their houses uninvited, cause derision and upset according to their values, I would be kicked out ultimately. It's not a good way. I feel violated. I feel interrupted. I feel angry.
May I ask you something? When you were saying if you had showed up at their house, they're saying that people are showing up at houses where they're citizens or without due process and breaking and entering the house. One that we saw, I've been watching from New York, with a battering ram into someone's private property, and there's no recourse. There's no, you understand what I'm saying?
This is all part of a much larger dialogue, in my opinion. On one side are people who watched a previous administration bring 12 million people in over the course of 4 years, and many of them undocumented, many of them criminals, etc. This is another administration's corrective. Now, whether you agree with the policies or procedures, I think I could actually be sympathetic to some of the things where there have been challenges to action and decency. At the same time, these are what are called targeted interventions by ICE to keep the American people safe.
If I respectfully may interject here, I've been out reporting on a lot of these, and they're not targeted. There are no warrants signed by a judge, let me finish. And they're American citizens, many of them. Most of the people that they detain don't have criminal convictions or criminal records.
I'm not going to get into the weeds.
But you should know that, though. Don't you think that's part of it?
Yes, and I could also show you many opposing sides where we're also picking up the very criminals that have put Americans in danger. And I'm not saying it's pretty. I'm not saying it's not messy. I'm not saying it couldn't be better. I'm saying this is a part of a much larger dialogue in which one administration caused a great deal of chaos and havoc and danger for American citizens, and another is trying to correct that.
Do you believe that? Why honestly,
okay.
Let me talk to you just on the facts. Yes, I am. I want to give you the facts.
No.
Did you know that undocumented people and immigrants commit far less crime than American citizens?
We're done here.
Then natural-born Americans. You won't listen.
If you could ask,
I'm giving you the facts. It is.
Give me facts. I would have a conversation.
But I can respond to you.
No.
Did Jesus stand with the oppressed?
Because he doesn't want to listen to facts. That's the interesting thing about this, is that they won't listen to facts.
No.
You won't
when you pose as a journalist.
I am a journalist. Journalists give facts.
And then you start correcting me with facts and don't have.
You shouldn't hear the facts?
Of course I should
most
hear
of the people
facts.
who are picked up
but
are
will you
not,
give me the facts on both sides?
That is the facts on both sides. Most of the people who are picked up and are detained are not convicted. They have no criminal convictions. They have no criminal records. None. That immigrants.
Are they here illegally? End of discussion. That's all it comes down to. They're here illegally, and they try sidestepping the conversation with bringing that in. How many crimes aren't reported within the illegal immigrant area because they don't want to report crimes because they're here illegally and they're afraid of being deported? And it's even somebody as simple as me can understand that. but they love to distort the information and try to twist it. Because when they cross the border illegally, and the ones that stayed over, that's a different conversation. The ones that came across the border broke federal law. It is not a civil issue. It is a federal law that they broke, period. But this event matters because it shows a breakdown in norms, even among the self-described defenders of free speech. A church service is a sacred gathering. It is not a political arena. It is not a place to stage ideological confrontation. And yet that is where some activists chose to bring their grievance, and interrupting prayer with slogans, demanding attention at a moment set aside for worship. When someone interrupts a worship service, they are not persuading. They are not debating. They are not dominating the moment. And after that moment passes, you either step back or you escalate. Don Lemon chose escalation. He didn't just record the protest. He chased down an elderly Christian, a man who's trying to explain why the disruption was counterproductive, and followed him through the snow as he tried to leave, continued to press his talking points. That behavior reveals something deeper than a reporting misstep. It reveals a world view where confrontation is coverage, agitation is journalism. If you are chasing down an elderly man in the snow after a church disruption, the line between documenting an event and becoming part of it has already been crossed. Let's be clear. Nobody is above criticisms, but content matters. If anti-ICE agitators want to protest immigration enforcement, there are countless places, public places to do it. Streets, park, government buildings. That is protest, and it is protected speech. A church service during worship is none of those things. People have a reasonable expectation that sacred gatherings are not going to be turned into ideological battlegrounds. Yet that expectation has been erased for certain activists. If no space is off limit, then no movement is protected. And once that principle is abandoned, intimidation becomes the dominant force in discord. This is not a debate about policy anymore. It is a debate about boundaries. It is a debate about whether civil societies can tolerate those who believe any space is fair game for disruption. And it is a test for whether anyone in media understands that exercising restraint is not weakness, it is respect. Because when a church service is interrupted, the correct response is not to chase worshipers in the snow. The correct response is to reflect on what was lost, not to double down on the agitation. That's the difference between reporting news and creating it. Now, do you think Don Lemon's pursuit of an elderly churchgoer serves the cause he claims to defend, or does he expose how detached from respectful discord some in media have become? Or was he doing it just to get airtime, to try to get his popularity back? I haven't done it yet, so I want to do it now. I want to thank everybody in the chat room. I appreciate everybody showing up. Be respectful. Have fun. Get the conversation going. But yes, thank you for everybody that's there. There's too many to go over. So, I don't know what Don Lime was thinking. Why do I keep calling him Lime? I got Lime on the brain. Don Lemon, a Department of Justice, once arrested, tried, convicted, and punished journalists who covered January 6th. 3 of them. Not as rioters, not as attackers, as journalists. And yet, today, some in the media scream that recording protest action it's not an issue. Let's get to the core of this straight. If the DOJ believed 3 journalists needed full criminal prosecution for their actions related to January 6th, then charging anybody involving in storming a church, including someone like Don Lemon, is not radical. It's consistent. It's the rule of law applying to all. Here's what happened back then. The DOJ pursued cases, not against rioters in the abstract, but against media figures who crossed the line from observing to participating in ways that violated federal statutes against intimidation, conspiracy, and interference, including civil rights statutes left over from Reconstruction and civil rights enforcement. 3 journalists were held legally accountable under those principles. Now, fast forward to the present. A high-profile media personality is caught in the middle of a disruptive protest inside a church, chasing down worshipers, claiming journalistic cover while doing it. Yet the pushback from commentary hasn't been, "What did you do?" or "Is this lawful?" It's been reflective defense. That raises a single unavoidable question. Does the standard still exist? If journalists can be prosecuted for conduct that crosses legal lines, then everyone else, and including those who do not even pretend to be journalists, should be as well. If charges are appropriate for one, the credibility of justice demands they be appropriate for all. You cannot have a justice system that treats similar behavior as criminal in one case and untouchable when it suits the narrative. That is not justice. That is selective enforcement. And selective enforcement is what destroys public trust in institutions. Remember, folks, well, we're past getting started. We got one more segment after this. This is the anatomy of a modern political warfare, and we're only peeling back the first layer. So don't go away. We will be right back.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Are you looking for a way to boldly express your faith and love for your country? And check out 7 Armors, the premier apparel company for patriotic men of God, where faith meets freedom in style. Our t-shirts are more than just clothing, they're statements. Bold, stylish, and meaningful. From timeless messages to modern designs, we've got something for every patriotic man of God. Wear your beliefs proudly with 7 Armors gear. Don't miss the chance to wear your faith and freedom on your sleeve. Visit 7armors.com today and join the movement. That's the number 7armors.com.
Come listen to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon Radio Show. Live on select and exclusive Tuesday and Thursday nights at 11 p.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. Central, and 8 p.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Rumble channel, SHR Media YouTube channel, X, Twitch, Spreaker, and wherever great conservative podcasts are found. BZ, your conservative Sherpa, guides you through the maelstrom of Democrat, leftist, and globalist lies, chaos, deceit, and betrayal. Raised as a free-range child with dirt, stains, mud, and freedom, BZ broadcasts from North Idaho, comfortably surrounded by actual normal people. Jump into our plush, sumptuous, palatial, and resplendent chat room on rumble.com. Click on live chat to join. Now, with 37% more umbrage and 19% more bulbosity than previous shows, featuring delicious Liberty additives for the best in late-night conservatarian talk radio. BZ reminds you that with great beard comes great responsibility. No chinchillas were harmed, embarrassed, fat-shamed, or the focus of any sarcasm whatsoever in the making of this ad.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
This is the Reaver of Common Sense, where the truth lives and the nonsense dies screaming. Hit that like button, smash subscribe, and share this stream like your freedom depends on it, because it just might. Every click helps us punch through big tech censorship, drown out media noise, and make sure common sense has a fighting chance. It's getting messed up out there. I will say that. I don't understand. But let's look at the contrast. 3 journalists connected to January 6th were federally prosecuted and convicted. Meanwhile, today's media elite act as if any scrutiny of their conduct is attacked on the First Amendment itself. This is not consistency. That is posture. And let's be clear. The Constitution does protect free speech and free press, but it does not provide immunity from consequences when conduct crosses legal boundary, whether in Washington or in a church sanctuary. The DOJ's own use of the statute, like the Ku Klux Klan Act, to pursue defendants in serious cases show that federal law can apply to journalists, others alike, when intimidation or conspiracy is involved. So the case for equal application of justice is strong. If 3 journalists were prosecuted, convicted, and punished, then why should anyone else be treated as exempt? How is that equal before the law? How is that accountability? And if we cannot answer those questions plainly, then we have already lost the public's confidence in objective enforcement. And in this moment, the confidence is exactly what is at stake. Because when the public sees one set of rules for media elite and another set for everyone else, they start to conclude that the system protects insiders and punishes outsiders. That is just how trust collapses. If the DOJ genuinely believes that journalists who cross legal lines on January 6th deserve prosecution, should anyone involved in unlawful disruption, including Don Lemon, be subject to the same standards? Because consistency before the law is not optional, and it is fundamental. Now, one of the state's attorneys has come out. Let me try to find it real quick. And it stated there's charges coming for Don Lemon. Holy shit. Why do I have Lime on the brain? The hell's up tonight? I know where I can find that at. We did a nice article on shrmedia.com. If you haven't been there, you need to go there. All right. Hold on one second. Pulling that video up. No, producer, it takes a momentito for me to pull stuff up. All right.
We will pursue charges in this case. I see various crimes that have occurred. Exactly what they are, I'm not going to flag, but the FACE Act has been mentioned as one of the predicates there. In other cases, the Biden DOJ used the Klan Act conspiracy charges tacked on to the FACE Act in the case of protests outside abortion clinics to bring much longer sentences. So there are a number of tools available to us. Who funded this? What else? What other crimes may have occurred? Was there a use of the wires or the mails in preparing for this event? Did anyone cross state lines to do this? All of those are potential predicates for additional federal charges.
I mean, I've just pulled up the...
Now, what's even funnier is Mr. Armstrong, an alleged organizer of an invasion of a church service in St. Paul, Minnesota, to protest ICE operations, did some of the Trump Justice Department's work for them by posting the names of those involved in the incident on social media. How stupid can you be? You have now given the people that were involved. Just turn that information right over. We're at 753 subscribers. We crossed the 750 mark. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thank you. Now our next hurdle is 800. See how fast we can get to 800? I appreciate everybody and everybody in chat. Thank you. I don't understand why you would go and post everybody's name. Oh, and here you go. Here's the video. I just found it. Give me a second. Don Lemon, when he was outside, I guess beforehand, and he kind of admits that he's out to be traumatic to the people. He's trying to traumatize them. All right. Sorry, I got distracted. Shiny lights.
Watch this guy here. Look, he's hugging his kid. And, you know, I've imagined it's uncomfortable and traumatic for the people here. But again, careful. It's very slippery right here. Yeah. It's uncomfortable and traumatic for the people here. But that's what really, careful, please. Really slippery. Not kidding. That's what protesting is about. And so, watch. That's what protesting is about. And it's slippery. Not kidding. That's what protesting is about.
That's what protesting is about. Being traumatic. I doesn't make sense to me. All this does, I've never heard a single person get swayed over when these protests do this. I've never. Hey, hello from Italy. Thank you. I've never heard of a single person that got swayed over when you attacked, when you blocked highways, when you blocked roads, when you block people trying to go to work, when you go in a church and you traumatize them. Using Don Lime's words, traumatizing them. I don't understand it. You're not going to win people over. You're pushing people away. And it's so bad in Minneapolis. Police have told citizen journalists to leave an area after leftist activists targeted them while documenting protests and unrest. What does that say about public squares when reporters, not rioters, not combatants, but journalists, are pushed out for simply recording events? And then we sit here and hear how this is a peaceful protest. This is anything, again, but peaceful. They will tell you it's raining out as they piss down your leg. That's exactly what they've been doing with this. They've been stoking the fires, and then they gaslight you and tell you it's everybody else's fault when anybody with more brain cells than an amoeba can understand they have been stoking the flames themselves. And they don't want to take responsibility for their actions. And what really, really surprised me, there's people that buy into this. Right now, this isn't left versus right. This is violence versus peace. Charlie Kirk got murdered. There was not one single riot. Nothing burned. The federal government is enforcing federal laws that Congress put in place. Congress put these laws in place, people. And we keep. I understand you're allowed to protest, but these are not protests. And it's to the point that it's almost time. I mean, I really think it's almost time for that Insurrection Act to be declared. All right. Again, if you're going to be in chat, be respectful. That's all I ask. If you're going to act like a 5-year-old, we'll put you in timeout. So, it doesn't make sense to me. Oh, man. I didn't think I was going to have enough for the show, but here it is, almost to the end. I do want to touch on one other thing. I know I glanced over about what's going, the Minnesota and the journalist issue. It's getting violent with that. You have people that have no involvement are getting confused for people that might work for ICE, and they're getting jumped. They're getting attacked. They attacked a guy that was there protesting with them, but because he had camouflage on, they jumped him. And now we're hearing the socialists in New York City are reportedly mustering an army, not of volunteers, not of bystanders, but of action brigades ready to block immigrations and, ICE operations when they begin in America's largest city. That is not grassroots community support. It is organized chaos. More than 4,000 activists are being lined up into what they call rapid response brigades, direct action forces trained to confront and obstruct federal law enforcement at the moment ICE carries out its duty. As soon as that happens, arrest them for obstruction. Federally charge them. End of discussion. And with that, holy shit, time just went by. Holy. And what we walked through tonight is not accidental. It follows a pattern that has become familiar. Different forecasts, different institutions, but the same response when the data no longer supports the narrative. For years, the public was told the economy was fragile and headed for collapse. That message was repeated until it became accepted truth. Now the data has changed. Economists are revisiting, upward growth expectations are strengthening, and recession fears are fading. And suddenly the voice that demanded trust falls silent. When numbers improve, panic stops working. When reality contradicts the story, accountability disappears. We see good news minimized, success treated as suspicious, and experts ignore the moment their conclusions become inconvenient. That is not analysis. It is a narrative protection. Here's the truth. They will not say plainly. They do not fear bad economic reviews. What they fear is evidence that proves them wrong. Because evidence ends the spin, and spin cannot survive accountability. This is why it matters. So hit the like button. Hit the hype button. Smash subscribe. Share this stream like your freedom depends on it, because it just might. Every click helps us punch through big tech censorship, drowns out corporate media spin, and keeps common sense alive. Again, I want to thank everybody in chat. I appreciate everybody that showed up and joined in the chat. You're always welcome here. This has been Reaver of Common Sense, where truth lives, the spin dies screaming, and the nonsense burns to ashes. More from SHR Media. In another hour from now, you'll have the Edge of Liberty with Sackhead Sean. He's on every Monday and Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Then you have BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon every Tuesday and Thursday, 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Mission Ready Men with Big E Jackson, Tuesdays and Thursdays at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And of course, me, Reaver of Common Sense with Jersey Joe, Mondays and Fridays at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Good night, Patriots. Stay sharp, stay grounded, and never let them gaslight you out of reality.